So data-driven is always a common term you hear in finance. I remember being in finance maybe 10 years ago, and I heard big data and data-driven. Pras, I'm really excited to sit down here and talk with you today about what it means to be data-driven in a finance organization. So my first question for you, leading right into it, what does it actually mean for finance teams and FP&A professionals that when they say they're data-driven?
So it's obviously, the easy part is embracing data, but all finance departments I think will say they embrace data. But the first step is to have access to clean data. So go through your data, the sources both internally and externally, and make sure that it's meaningful and it's data that can be trusted. The second step I think is being bold in terms of how you receive and work with the data. We talked before and we've talked backstage, there's so many organizations that are stuck in their Excel models. Well, if you're stuck in these Excel models, you're probably not using all the data that's available to you to drive better decisions. As well, if you're using older planning tools or planning tools that aren't flexible, like you're stuck in your 8 to 12 dimensions that cannot be broken because each dimension means something and you can't think outside the box on that, that's not really going to let you flourish as a finance department. So I think you have to embrace business data fabric solutions or having a business data fabric. So what does that mean? Well, we know that there is data that exists externally, like GDP data, commodity data, retail data, whatnot, that is meaningful, but you just don't have the means to grab it real time. But there's also internal data that exists, across finance, not just from your ERP, with HR, operations, supply chain, marketing, that can have a meaningful impact on the way the finance consumes information. Bringing all that data in through a business data fabric solution and make it accessible to finance, making your planning tool linked to it, have analytics on top of that, have AI and machine learning built on top of that as well. None of this is rocket science. This is all available. And once that's, you've taken some of these steps, by first, again, cleaning or trusting your data, you are a data-driven organization.
That's foundation, and I love your point around that because I think there's so many organizations, Pras, that want to be data-driven, right? But they don't understand, and I call it the decision cycle. It's a very easy framework to make data-driven decisions. And it's one of the first building blocks, as you mentioned, that foundation, is the process. Processes drive data. Data is then turned into information. Information is then shared through knowledge to ultimately make a business decision. That is that data-driven process. And it starts with the first place with the processes, right? It starts with the AP, it starts with the AR, it starts with, how you're connecting inside the business to build that foundation, right? And a lot of organizations don't understand, and they typically make the fallacy, right? They're like, technology is going to solve all my data problems. That's not necessarily the case. You have to go get into the foundation of your processes. Get into the things, because as you mentioned, without that solid foundation and that process of understanding and making sure that data's you can trust it, there's really no tool is going to be able to fix that.
Absolutely,
right? Right? So when you think about being data-driven for finance, right, what are some of those core competencies that FP&A professionals need to be data-driven?
So I think they definitely have to be quantitatively inclined in terms of understanding the data, obviously understanding maybe some statistical methods and measures, regression analysis and things like that, so that they can make, understand trends and things of that nature. But they also have to be qualitatively inclined as well, because data is not just about numbers. It's knowing where that data comes from, how to interpret the data, whether it's positive or negative, and how to communicate it better. And that helps you effectively trust the data. I think the next step is really to take a hard look inside in terms of what are you using now, but what is available to you, and having an open mind in terms of that data that's available to you as finance, and being open to embracing it. Not, again, constraining yourselves within the world of 8 to 12 dimensions or in Excel spreadsheets. You got to break that mold, because businesses are constantly evolving and expanding. Different scenarios are happening. There's best case, worst case, upside, downside. And having data that can help influence those different outcomes, I think makes you a lot more strategic as finance. So again, I think the step is break out of your current mold. You just got to break that decision and cycle that you've got going on in terms of your processes.
Yeah, I think so many different finance professionals and FP&A professionals, and I was one of these too, Pras, right? We get comfortable where we're comfortable, right? We get comfortable with just our financial data, our profits, our revenue, our ERP, right? Like we get really... We have a lot of comfort and confidence in the ERP stuff that we're doing. But one of the things you talked about was that qualitative side. To me, that is like the blue ocean for finance and FP&A teams to be data-driven, right? But it also is a not the first path that finance professionals go to. We want to go to our debits, our credits, our profits, our losses, our top line, bottom line sort. But when you go in that qualitative side, you really actually connect to the business, which I think, to me, that's a core principle. People, you can know data to the end of the world, right? But from that qualitative side and that skill set, if you can't communicate that data to a non-finance person, like, we can talk finance, gross margins, rule of 40, we can talk all those today. But if I can't sit across from a sales leader or a marketing leader or an HR person and help them connect how their data is making an impact to either the top line, bottom line, or cash flow of our business, then what really value is finance providing, you know? So for me, what are some of those challenges that you see that finance organizations have that prevent them to be data-driven?
So I think often it's not really understanding your business. It's understanding it maybe in terms of debits or credits or ERP or your P&L, but that just tells you one part of the story. That's an accounting story. It doesn't tell you the business growth story or the business, opportunities that you're leaving behind or the costs that are creeping up on you. I mean, it doesn't really help you to understand. So as finance, I think you've got to start looking beyond just the P&L. You've got to start going into marketing, for example, with data that's available to you. If marketing is having huge marketing spend, look at that spend. Is it aligned to the campaigns? How successful are these campaigns? Are they generating leads? Are those leads moving on to sales? What's driving actual sales? Is it marketing opportunities? Is it sales, events or whatnot? But again, as finance, ask questions. I think it's got to be about curiosity, just asking more and more questions. And when you ask questions of your data and of that information, you get better answers and more answers. And with those answers, you're able to serve everybody internally that much better.
Pras, man, I love what you just said. And the reason why I love it so much is because you highlighted, I think, a finance FP&A superpower. Not being calculators, curiosity.
Yeah.
Like, go be curious in the business. When I look back over my 20 plus years in accounting, finance, FP&A, and CFO leadership, right? I was never the best, like, Excel person. I was never the best at anything, but I was always curious. And when I looked at building high performance finance teams, I would look at somebody and say, hey, they're a great quantitative person, a quant, but you give me a person that has curiosity to go say, man, why is that like that? Or why are we doing this a certain way? Or like your example, why is marketing overspending and what ROI they were getting, right?
Right.
That kind of opportunity opens you up to not just be what you mentioned in just the debits and credits. You go inside the business. And what better way to build that relationship with a business partner than go solving a problem for them, right? Like, that to me is like a superpower. And that's where curiosity starts it. You're curious about something that's going on with another department, another area of the business, a KPI, and you go partner in and say, what data can we bring together to either, I always look at it from like red light, green light, yellow light, right? Like, how is this information going to help us make those kind of decisions, right? And so another thing I want to get into, and I think this is a hot topic, right? What role does technology play in being data-driven for FP&A teams?
So I think the one thing it does is it helps break us out of the mold of being working in a scheduled manner. And what I mean by that is that too many finance departments I talk to, and FP&A departments especially, work in a scheduled manner in that their budgets start in August, they finish by September, then there's a business update that happens in October, and then maybe another one in December. Meanwhile, they do their sales forecasts at the end of every month for the next following month. There's a different strategic plan always happens after a C-level meeting in August or June, July, August or whatnot. That's communicated all the way down. It's too scheduled in terms of, but if you're scheduling all your decisions and your insights in this framework, things are happening all the time. There's transactions hitting your ERP and other information systems and all your external systems every second of every day. Yet we're constrained by this, methodology of, well, we only get our data feeds at the end of the month, or we only get it on Thursday at 2 p.m. or like it's there's been these internal agreements with IT that this is when we receive information. But best-in-class organizations have access to their information in real time. But it's not just accessible. It's accessible in a way that it's made meaningful as well. It's made meaningful through reports, dashboards, and you can communicate this information as well. Share dashboards with friends and colleagues internally. to make more friends and make more alliances, and you've got a real-time pulse of your business. Because again, data is real-time, it's happening all the time. It can be consumed real-time as well. And having world-class ERPs that work in real-time with a business data fabric that brings in internal, external data on a harmonized layer that is consumable makes finance's job that much better.
So much better. And I love how you broke down that structure, because when you were talking about it, you were like, rolling forecasts is due here and this is there. I was like, I had a timeline in my head where I'm like walking through. It's like, yep, that's kind of how finance goes. But technology, it gets back to that decision cycle I talked about earlier, right? You've got finance teams. When sales are growing crazy and the business is growing, I don't know about you, but I never was in a finance team when sales are growing crazy that the CEO let me hire as many finance people as I wanted to. We have to do more with less of what we have, right? Yeah. And tying that back to that decision cycle where technology helps is like, you don't want your high performer, high potential finance and FP&A person churning and burning through the process of Excel to get the data, to download the ERP to get to information. Let technology do that. Have a data layer, data fabric across the entire organizations that's bringing them to be that. Then bring that person to that knowledge decision-making process, right? That's really the value add. Technology's advanced so much. There's so many great tools. SAP has so many great tools that business owners, finance professionals, finance business partners that can leverage to say, we don't have to spend the time debating if this data is correct. Let's spend the time getting knowledge. Let's spend the time getting insights. Let's spend the time to make more proactive decisions in that process, right? Not just, we're outside of our data right now. And I think like the theme of data on demand now is across the business. Like, I don't know about CFOs, CEOs, business owners, chief marketing officers. The C-suite doesn't want to wait for data anymore.
They don't, no.
You have to be able to give them access to data quickly. I look at it as like data on demand when you're at a hotel room and you want to watch that on-demand movie, the good movies, right? You want to watch that good movie and you're like, you can just easily access it. We should make data and insights that actionable for the business. And that's 1,000% where technology comes in and helps.
Yeah. And going back to what you said earlier as well, all that stuff about waiting for data, marrying it into Excel, moving a CSV file, running a macros or something like that, then moving it into a planning tool and pressing another button. Everything can be automated. We have tools at SAP that automate your entire finance process from start to finish, so that you as finance can consume data, consume more information, and again, drive better decisions. The role of FP&A should be a lot more analysis, less planning. The planning's being done. Let the planning come up with multiple scenarios, options, and things like that. You've cleaned your data, you trust your data. Now you're delivering analytical options for your customers, and you're helping your organization move forward, and ultimately shareholder value right there and then.
There you go. There it is, ROI, right? And that data-driven insight, right? It's not data-driven if you're spending more time gathering the data to drive it, right? Like if you're building a car and you're building it and you spend more time building the car and less driving it, it's like, what are you really doing? Like the car's meant to be driven. I think that's exactly what that FP&A portion of it is. Too many times we spend much on the planning. We got that structure rigor. This is what we do. This is how we plan. This is how we forecast. We need to branch outside of that. We need to be more proactive. We need to be more inside the business to connect that to. And that's where technology is a superstar to help, right? So one other question I have is when you think about the partnership side, we talked a lot about technology, we talked a lot about processes. When you think about the partnership that's important for finance organization and FP&A professionals, how can they partner outside of finance to drive that data-driven culture into other areas of the business?
Yeah, so I think it's also about starting small as well. I mean, once you have your business data fabric set up through, your business data fabric solution, you have that information available to you, which can be done in partnership with IT. Let IT run that. Let IT help you, dictate what you want from your data. Let IT make something of it through their data analysts or whatnot, who are probably very financially educated as well. And once you've got that, start doing nice winning use cases for different areas. So we talked about marketing earlier as well. Work with marketing to understand the impact of data on their campaigns, and the kind of leads they're generating, where they're generating their leads, what kind of impact it's happening as well from a finance perspective as well. Like, are these leads and qualified? Are they being qualified leads or whatnot? These qualified leads, are they going through the sales funnel, sales channel, and ultimately helping salespeople close the business? If not, well, what can we do in that case. Operations as well. Work with operations, the HR.
Definitely.
There's so much HR information. I mean, we know salaries and employee costs are some of the highest in the organization. Use that to find out, which employees are working on what products or whatnot, what the true cost of your products is on a fully loaded basis, and how that changes maybe on a fluctuating basis based on seasonality or whatnot. Just keep asking questions with these small little use cases, and with these use cases, you'll generate a lot more value, and that's how you connect and become a true partner to the enterprise.
Yeah, and to me, I love that, and I'll just add to that practical insight.
Yeah.
For all those listeners that are go back and look at this, if there's one way to go do that, go ask sales, marketing, HR one simple question. What problems, opportunities, challenges, and risks that you see in your business, and how can I help you solve them, right? Now you're bringing technology, now you're bringing partnership, now you're bringing data to that conversation exclusively with that business partner to help them solve a pain, problem, frustration, or opportunity inside their business. What better value prop than going to have the technology, the data fabric, all the things the planning tools that you need at your arsenal, at your tool belt. You've got the partnership skills coupled with it, and you've got best-in-class technology to be able to work with. That's a slam dunk value proposition for FP&A professionals. Hey, Pras, love this conversation. One last question that I have. When you think about the data-driven culture inside of an organization, right, and you think about how that applies to FP&A professionals for the future, right, what is one area, if you was to dissect one place that people should go to, whether it's quantitative or qualitative skill set wise, what should they focus on?
You know what? I think they need to focus on understanding what their business actually does. Because when you understand what your business, and you move beyond the P&L, the balance sheet or whatnot, and really understand what are the drivers behind your business, your industry, your competitors, what are the external factors that impact your business. You become an expert in your business. I think that will help you understand the data and become drive a better data-driven culture.
You heard it here first, everybody. Get outside of your numbers and get inside the business.
There you go.
Pras, absolute pleasure sitting down here with you.
Likewise,
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Chris.